Hello and welcome everyone to Red Planet Live. I am your host, Ashton Zeth. I'm elated to be hosting the Mars Society's podcast and leading the conversation about human exploration of the universe and the future settlement of Mars. As a longtime space enthusiast, I am passionate about STEM education and making humanity an interplanetary species. Thank you everybody for joining today and supporting Red Planet Live. Want to remind everybody, we are now in the new year. So you may have noticed our schedule is a little bit different for the next couple months. For January through April time, I'm going to be on maternity leave as I am just welcoming my first baby to the world. So taking some time off to spend with him and my husband. So during that time, RPL is going back to a one time per month release schedule. And those episodes are now pre-recorded for those few months. But after that, we will go back to our regular schedule and we'll be able to host those episodes live and continue to have audience participation. But I want to say thank you so much for your continued support and being a part of the community. I'm excited to keep bringing you these conversations, even during the transition time, and can't wait to go back to our regular schedule later in the year. All right. Well, today we have a fun episode, lots of guests. Love when we have a panel session. We're going to be focusing on the Hope Station, and you're going to learn a little bit more about what that is, but would like to introduce our guest for today. So first is Jonathan Clarke, who is a geologist with a PhD from Flinders University and more than a decade of experience in resource exploration across Australia, Chile, and the Philippines. He has taught geoscience at multiple universities and spent 14 years in Geoscience Australia working in marine survey, groundwater, salinity, and mineral exploration. A lifelong space exploration enthusiast, John joined Mars Society Australia in 2001 and then served as its president from 2012 to 2025. He also participated in numerous Mars analog missions, 8 in Australia, wow, several in India, Utah, and the Mars 160 mission, which included time at MDRS, and on Devon Island at Flashline in the Canadian Arctic. John has authored over 100 peer-reviewed publications in geoscience, analog research, and astrobiology. Outside of work, he's an avid hiker, diver, and off-road adventurer, and serves as a volunteer firefighter with the, oh goodness, you're gonna have to make sure I pronounce this right, Geisis Creek Brigade? Okay, good. I know how to read. I pronounced it correctly on the first try. Love it. John, thank you so much for being here today.
It's great to be here.
Excited to chat with you. And next up, we have Annalea Beattie, who is an artist, a researcher, and explorer whose work sits at the intersection of space science, human futures, and creative culture beyond Earth. As director of Mars Society Australia, she has led and participated in expeditions across some of the most Mars-like environments on the planet, from the glacial deserts of Ladakh to the underground labs of Bulby, Maine in the UK. Annalea has served on multiple crews at the Mars as a research station, including the 3-month Mars 160 mission, and recently led the team preparing for future science operations in the Himalayas. Wow, okay. She is now part of the team building HOPE, the Himalayan outpost for planetary exploration. Her research explores how art can support community, well-being, and social cohesion in extreme environments, and she has contributed to several works on the extraterrestrial liberty. Annalea is an adjunct professor with the Center of Excellence in Astrobiology at Amity University and teaches at RMT University in Melbourne. Annalea, thank you so much for being here. Annalea, can you hear us okay? Yep, I see a head shake. All right. We'll introduce our next guest. Annalea, let us know if you can hear us okay. Yep, all right. I see another head shake. All right, perfect. And next up, we have Siddarth Pandey, who is a space research engineer with international experience across the US, Australia, the Netherlands, and India. He is currently the deputy project manager at Fugo Spark in Perth, contributing to Australia's first lunar rover through the Australian Space Agency's Trailblazer program and NASA's CLIPS initiative. Previously, he worked at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory on exploration technologies for Venus and icy moon missions, and at NASA Ames, designing biological experience payloads for the International Space Station, as well as robotic sampling instruments for Mars and Venus missions. He also founded the Center of Excellence in Astrobiology at Amity University, Mumbai, India's first dedicated center for surface exploration and microgravity biology research. Siddarth is passionate about education and outreach, using space to promote awareness and inclusivity. He holds a PhD in aerospace engineering from UNSW Canberra and a master's in space system engineer from TU Delft and a bachelor's of technology in aerospace engineering from Amity University in India. Siddarth, thank you so much for being here. You guys gave me the longest bios with the most tongue twisters in there. Goodness. And being pregnant, I'm already out of breath, and I probably struggled with that a little bit. So thank you guys for challenging me today.
Well, that wasn't the intention, but yeah.
I know, right? It wouldn't be, a good episode with a few stumbles there. I think, pregnancy brain too makes it a little bit harder to read. So bear with me. I appreciate you guys for being here today and excited to chat with y'all. All right, well, let's jump right in. On the podcast, we do a session, a little segment of each episode called Question of the Day. It's meant to be just an icebreaker. I promise, no right or wrong answers. Just want to hear your opinion. And so since you're all familiar with analog missions, we're going to focus on that. So today's question is, hold that up there. Oh, goodness. There we go. So today's question is, if you could bring one completely impractical item with you on a future Mars mission, not scientific related, not something for the mission, just for you to enjoy, boost your morale, what would it be and why? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. Completely impractical, just like something personal that you enjoy just to make your trip a little bit easier. What might that be? Okay. Siddarth, I'm starting with you. Do you have any ideas off the top of your head what item you might bring?
I would probably carry my runners, but I'm not sure if I'd be going around running on Mars, but I don't know if it's completely impractical.
Wait, exactly. That follows the criteria. Completely impractical. So
Okay.
so you're runners. You talk about shoes. You're running shoes, right?
Yeah, running shoes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. If given the opportunity, would you take those out and go for a run if possible?
If possible, absolutely. Why not? But I don't think that's going to happen. We probably need like special shoes on Mars.
Not on the first mission, I would imagine. Maybe in future next generation or something. By that point, they've figured it out.
Hopefully.
But, yeah. Okay. John, what about you? What's your completely impractical item you're bringing?
A cat.
A cat. Okay. Is there a certain cat in mind?
Good move.
Oh, well, any cat will do. I mean, my current cat is a bit elderly, so he probably wouldn't do it. But yeah, a cat will do.
Cat. Okay. I love it. A little companionship. Annalea, what about you? What would be your impractical item you'd bring with you?
Oh, I'd bring it. I don't know whether it's impractical for me, though. It's probably necessary, though. I'd bring a sketch pad.
Sketch pad. Okay.
And some pencils.
Okay.
So, I could draw,
Yeah.
Would probably be. I'd bring some art materials. Probably the sketch pad would be the thing, I think, and pencils. That's
Okay.
2 items.
That's okay. It's a bundle pack. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
You need both. Okay. And might you be sketching what you're seeing in your hab or a landscape? People? What's your sketch?
Well, I don't know. I think, I guess, you would draw to understand where you are, but you would also draw to as a survival skill, to be able to let some light into a situation where there's not a lot of light coming in. So it would give you, like any imaginative work is a dynamic thing. So it gives you another journey, and it like even learning music or all imaginative work sort of gives you a pathway. So I guess I would draw for itself, but I would also draw to understand my environment. I would probably draw to document. I would probably draw to imagine. So lots of different reasons, I reckon. Like a diary,
Yeah.
in some ways, but also as a creative survival skill.
Yeah, I like it. Okay. All good answers. Honestly, like I said, no right or wrong answer, but I think you've all chosen well. Well, let's jump right into the conversation. Excited to learn more from each of you about the Hope Station. Yeah, a little bit of a delay there. Siddarth, can you hear me okay?
Again, yeah.
Okay. All right.
She's in Tasmania, so we're pretty far out.
Checking there.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll try to get some answers.
So I'm in Tasmania. Next stop, Antarctica, right down the bottom of Australia.
Yeah. Okay. Exciting. Tasmania going on to Antarctica. Not many of my guests have said that before when we're talking about what are you working on? What projects are you have on the horizon? Not many of them say Antarctica. So that's a pretty cool one. All right. Well, like I said, let's jump right into conversation. Lots to learn about the Hope Station. And so mentioned each of your backgrounds. I stumbled through them a little bit, let's be honest. But the reason that we're all here today is to talk about Hope Station. So I think that's a good place for us to start. So if you don't mind, give the people, an overview. What is the Hope Station? Why have you three come together as a group to help establish the Hope Station? And what is the purpose? And I'm going to take this chat off as well. There we go.
So
there.
I can kick that off.
Yeah.
The Hope or Himalayan Outpost for Planetary Exploration is the culmination of a decade-long series of expeditions and work in the field by an international group of scientists. We decided to set up this station to enable scientists to conduct long-duration scientific work in the field, because most of the expeditions would run for like a week to 10 days. And you collect samples, you take some readings, and then you get back, and then you do the analysis. But that was limiting to an extent, because we'd want to have opportunities where we want to stay there for several more weeks, even a full month or a few months if we had to, and essentially have a place where you could place, set up a laboratory, have space where you could store samples, have people where they could live close to the sites rather than having to travel up and down a fair bit. So that's one of the main motivations into setting up a research outpost with which we got into it. Our Mars Society Australia group has been active in India since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming up to almost a full decade of work. And in fact, we actually started preparing for it in 2015. So we've already kind of been working towards it for a decade. And I think, being part of the Mars Society, we go in with a few different ends. Like there's the research, which is essentially collaborative work in the field to bring scientists and engineers to work together in understanding Mars-like terrains, and then bringing out the value of that to the educators and the students as well. So that's the spaceward-bound community that we kind of have been a part of, and we kick all of the work in India, in Ladakh. So Ladakh is the place where the Hope Station is, which is in the Himalayas. It's in a cold, high, dry desert environment. And we chose that place because it's having several locations that are helping us understand ancient Mars. So It's got access to permafrost, which is permanently covered frozen soil, glacial lakes that are slowly drying. So as Mars was going through that period of drying up, we're kind of seeing similar processes, surface processes take place on Earth in places like Ladakh. And also it's got these extreme environments, extreme conditions, very salty, cold, dry, heavy UV radiation conditions that, sustain microbial life. So, and then of course, because it's at an elevation of about ranging from 10,000 to up to 15 to up to even 17,000 feet above sea level, it has a low oxygen, low atmospheric pressure environment, which has its own kind of stresses that happen on the human body. So it's interesting to see how human body adapts to those kind of conditions. So all of these things coming together were reasons why we went into Ladakh a decade ago. And there have been a series of expeditions which led us to further characterize these different locations and understand better how to do work, how to do operations and logistics there. And it was only about a year and a half ago when we got the resources, we got the programmatic support from the Mars Society, from ISRO, which is the Indian Space Research Organization, and the state government of Ladakh to come together and essentially put together this program. And I was part of Mars Society Australia. We established a company in India called Protoplanet, which is essentially to help us sustain our activities in India, to help us pull together industry and find ways in which we could facilitate between universities. So that was the kind of vehicle we created to enable that, amongst some of the other projects that Protoplanet is kind of taking up. But essentially, it's taken almost like 10 to 15 people all around the world who've been part of the initial process. And now, we are very happy to say that we were able to set up the station, commission it earlier this year. And we're in the process of improving it, upgrading it, so that we can also one day open it up for the scientific community to come in and use it.
Excellent. No, that's very exciting. Yeah, I think you hit on a couple points I was going to ask you about. Why specifically this location as well. Annalea, anything that you want to add to the founding, the purpose for the Hope Station, why you guys have come together to establish this analog facility?
Well, I guess, for a long time we've been trying to build a station in Australia, but we haven't really got a space agency that sends craft into space. India's got a very strong space community, and we've been doing comparative studies between Australia and India for a long time. So, and we've had good relationships with scientific communities and institutions and organisations in India. So we tried to build it in Australia, but we couldn't get it together to raise the funds. So we really then just decided to build upon the work that we'd been doing in Ladakh. We'd often travelled, left the country, gone to MDRS or other places around the world to do analog work, and we'd spent a lot of time in India. So it evolved kind of, just seemed the right thing to do, really. We were there and we have good organisational people on the ground, and we feel part of something there and part of the Southern Hemisphere. There's no station in the Southern Hemisphere. This is the first outpost. So, Mars Society Australia, it's been a great kind of journey for us over a long period of time. So, very happy to be part of it now.
Excellent. Well, it's very exciting to see the different agencies, the different groups, Mars Society, from various countries, individuals with your backgrounds all come together to help establish the Hope Station. So let's see. I'm curious, what is like the long-term vision for Hope? What are you guys hoping to do? Who are you hoping to serve? How is this going to contribute to the space industry as a whole?
So there's a few things we want to achieve. We wanted to be in this part of the world, one of the prime locations for the research community to get access to train and build their systems and work together, collaborate. So it's kind of a high fidelity station that would support researchers in the Indo-Pacific or Asia-Pacific region. Working closely with the Indian Space Research Organization, we're helping them meet some of their own goals, their own training goals for their human spaceflight program, and also eventually for their planetary science missions, such as the next Indian Mars lander mission. So there's all of these exciting missions that India is working on, and we want to find ways in which this environment, not just the station, but how can this environment and the people working there, how can they come together to support these upcoming missions. And finally, I think provide the international community access to India. So Hope would be the gateway into working in these kind of environments, which normally have not been even put on the map yet. Like, we've been putting in a lot of effort to get the scientific community, make them aware of these locations in these sites, which are normally ignored and left aside. And we want to find ways in which we can enable that and facilitate more international scientists and experts to work closely in India and help, essentially in this time and age when there's a lot of, I'd say, uncertainty around some big missions that are happening, especially the Mars missions that are happening. Yeah. So I think it's even more important for the community to use opportunities to continue the work while the big missions are being figured out and allow them to kind of grow. So these are kind of the big things that we want to do, and we want to inspire the next generation of students that are in this region as well, and give them that opportunity. and also the local community that has been working very closely with us. We have a very special relationship with them, and we want to find ways in which we can empower them as they work with us. They are part of our operations team and our facility management team as well. So it's a lot of things going on. We're tracking a lot of these things, and we're hoping good things to come out of it.
Yeah. Well, that's very exciting. And I love that you mentioned, Expire students and kids in the region to get involved. I think that's always important. John, what do you think? Anything that you want to add to the question about long-term vision for Hope? What is the Hope Station going to do, and how is it going to serve different organizations, different countries, and the people in the area?
One of the advantages of the Hope Station is the unique aspects of the location, which we'll probably be talking about later, compared to, say, MDRS or FMARS. It's reasonably accessible, so better than FMARS in that regard. But in many ways, because of its altitude at 4,500 meters, which is over 12,000 feet for people in the US, it's a very harsh environment. So there's a degree of hostility in the external environment, which is not matched at the other stations. And this is important for some analog work. Also, there's a high altitude cold desert. It's a very good early Mars analog. So from an astrobiology point of view or astrogeology point of view, it's a very useful place to do fieldwork. Lastly, it's got a different design to the other stations. And, perhaps the closest counterpart is the now non-operational high seas one. That allows questions of architecture and habitability to be addressed and compared with the other stations at MDRS and FMARS.
Well, speaking of that, the design and the habitat, I think I've got a couple pictures here that we can show. Maybe you can talk us through what we're looking at. Here's the first one. What are we seeing here?
Yeah, so that's so it's a twin geodesic dome structure. What you're looking at is the larger dome, and there's two individuals standing in front of it. They've just concluded their 10-day isolation study inside the station. Yaman and Rahul, they were both shortlisted for the pilot study that we conducted right when the station was commissioned earlier this year in August. And there's other members from the Indian Space Agency, ISRO's team kind of coming down. This was after we just had their conclusion ceremony, and we were just doing some photographs as soon as they come out. But if you've got more photos, I can talk through a little bit more about the station.
Let's look at a few of these other ones. I think, here we go. Here's another one.
Yeah, so this is from a slightly different view where you can see both the structures. So it's a twin geodome structure. We went in with a design and a structure that was modular and that could survive these kind of windy, dusty, extreme temperature kind of environments. You'll notice that we are on stilts. That's also because of snowfall that occurs in the winter, so to keep us away from all the water and snow that might seep in. And also better thermal regulation, so that we're not losing a lot of the heat into the surface. We've affectionately named the two domes Phobos and Deimos after the two moons of Mars. The one on the right is the entrance. You can see the airlock to get inside, and that's where the hygiene area and the suiting area is. And there's a small tunnel that leads into the larger dome, which is then partitioned right now into three separate spaces that would support the living area, working area, the kitchen, or the community area. The reason why you'll see that there's a bit of a height difference between the two domes is because we're using a lot of gravity-loaded systems to make use of gravity wherever possible. The whole idea here was to essentially make use of as many passive systems, so systems that do not require electricity power to run wherever possible, so that we minimize the amount of power usage in such environments. So it's just kind of some description of the site there.
Okay. I think we've got some landscape pictures. Let's try, let's see. This one, this is where we're aerial view.
Yeah. So I'll let John, if you like, we talk a little bit about the area, John, if you can.
Yeah, thanks, Siddarth. So this is a Google Earth view of the Sokar Basin, where the station is located, indicated on the bottom left there. The Sokar Basin is a fault-bounded basin that's roughly about 25 kilometers from edge to edge, and a similar distance from north to south. There's about 500 meters of sediment in this basin. It's not tectonically active, which is good. And it's surrounded by mountains, which are certainly snow-capped in winter, as you can see there, and also have residual glaciers on them. Back in the Pleistocene, glaciers came right down to the edge of the modern lake in a number of places. On top of that, that lake used to be a lot higher. It used to be about 100 meters deep, and there are strand lines, fossil shorelines all the way around the basin. The lake itself is now hypersaline, as you can see in the top of those two lakes. It's fed largely by groundwater from snowmelt seeping into the ground in the higher areas. Some of that water ends up in the brackish lake Starsbach-So to the south, and then runs off into Sokar itself. All of this makes Sokar area, the Hope Station area, a really good early Mars analog. Air pressure is low. It's about half Earth atmosphere. The lake is highly alkaline, as we know early Mars lakes were. There are glaciers on the edge. There's shorelines developing. There's fans feeding into this basin. So there are multiple geological and biological aspects to this basin that make it a really good early Mars analog. Not far away, in the right hand of that image, we have the Puga hot springs. These are rich in boron, and we do know that some of the earliest habitats of life on Earth are associated with boron-rich hot springs. So that is an additional study area that's accessible by track from Sokar itself.
Okay, and I think we've got another photo here. John, can you touch on this one as well? This is another map photo that was provided.
So that shows the location of Ladakh in the extreme northwest corner of India. It's accessible by road, but generally we would fly in and fly out of the capital, Leh, which is at 3,500 meters. We'd acclimatize there for several days before we actually go up to the field station.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit more. Tell me about the process to get to Ladakh. What is the travel time? You said you're getting acclimated. So if somebody wanted to go on a mission, hey, we're going to the Hope Station. How long does it take to get there? What's the travel time look like? Let's walk through that.
Yeah, so maybe I can talk about that. So we would fly into New Delhi. Most folks who've come in internationally, we've had them fly directly into New Delhi. We do an overnight in New Delhi, and we take an early morning flight out to Leh. So most of the flights fly between 4 a.m. I guess is the earliest one. The latest one is probably noon. So you take the morning flight. You reach Leh. It's a 45-minute flight, so it's not too bad. But you immediately, are from sea level to now 10,000 feet above sea level as soon as your aircraft lands. And the air pressure outside is so thin that sometimes you can actually hear when the aircraft door opens, you can hear the pop because the air outside is literally half of what you have inside the aircraft, almost like a spacecraft landing on another planet.
Yeah.
You'd spend a mandatory, the government actually mandates compulsory 48-hour rest in Leh before you embark on any travels. So Leh is the capital township, Ladakh is the territory, which is within which it's. So you'd stay in Leh for about 2 nights. We actually do an extra night. We do 3 nights just to be sure, and that allows enough time for most people's bodies to get used to the elevation gain. And we normally spend a lot of time resting, hydrating, and just doing short strolls on the second or third day. First day is essentially everyone's supposed to be horizontal as soon as you arrive. Like, you're supposed to rest, but you're not supposed to sleep a lot as well. So you're supposed to get up if you're not feeling asleep and just chat with people and just be a bit relaxed. But definitely no heavy physically active exercise like running around or those sort of things. But after those 3 days are over, then you're ready to go. So it's a 4-hour drive from Leh, and there's two ways in which you can get to the station. There's a shorter way that goes over a mountain pass, which takes you over 15,000 feet, and the journey from Leh to the site is actually very, very scenic and also very insightful, very educational as well. And we do a lot of our it's almost like a guided tour. It's a 4-hour guided tour almost, wherein we make stops on the way and we look at different things. You're driving through the Leh Valley, and you're actually able to see the two different continents. So when the Indian subcontinent was colliding into Asia, you can actually see the fault line where that happened. Like, it's Leh is actually sitting on that fault line. So there's locations where you can actually see the two different continents as well, and it's interesting to just absorb the grandeur of the landscape and the context into which we are there. And as we go up in elevation, you see the colors change, you see the temperatures, humidity changes, vegetation, the kind of rocks, everything is very different, especially up at the mountain pass. And then once you start descending down, but not as low as where Leh is, but you're now at so you go from 10,000 to 17,000, you spend not more than 15-20 minutes there. And then you come down to the elevation where Sokar Basin is, which is around 14,500 feet. And that's essentially where the team sits. And we haven't done like I said, we're still in the process of commissioning the station. So there's only been one mission that has been carried out this year. And we plan to do more missions. But essentially, there's two villages which are about 25 kilometers, about 10 to 15 miles away from the station. But that's normally been like our place where we've set up camp. There's prefixed tents set up there normally for teams to kind of stay at, and then make trips out to the important sites of interest for us. And then once Hope is active, of course, people can go directly to Hope. But we'll always maintain there's a medical center, there's a small hospital there, and place to get supplies and those sort of things there as well. So that's kind of a general walkthrough of getting to the Hope Station.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I think we've got a video as well. So you were talking about the grand landscape. So let's play this video so everybody can see what it looks like, and then we'll talk a little bit more about your previous analog missions. Wow, what a stunning landscape. Very cool. It's nice to see it from that drone angle as well, getting to see not just the station, but all the land surrounding it. Well, I know that each of you have participated in previous analog missions. You guys were a part of the 160 mission. There's been lots of experience that you guys have gathered on other analog missions. How did those experiences help each of you as you're part of the planning process, the establishment of the Hope Station, the experience at MDRS or Flashline or wherever else you may have been on an analog mission? How did those experiences influence the design, the planning, and the ambitions for Hope? Annalea, you want to start with that one? All right, John, what about you? You want to start with that
I
one?
missed that question. I think I was frozen in the video, but I think you're saying, Ashton, how do we plan for Hope Station and what's the connection to MDRS?
Yeah, how did your previous
Was that the question?
Yes, how did your previous experiences on analog missions like MDRS influence the design, the planning, and the ambitions for Hope Station?
So I guess all of us have spent time at MDRS in the past. John and I were there, I was there a long time ago in about 2010 on a short rotation, and John and I were there for 3 months on the Mars 160. Siddarth has also been part of a crew to MDRS. And in this last 12 months, we decided to, even though we didn't know whether we would ever get a station or not in Ladakh, we decided to do some planning. So Siddarth was to lead, but couldn't lead a mostly Indian national crew to MDRS with a team mission of planning, having a look at the systems and thinking about the observatory and looking at the habitat and looking at the way we function, thinking about the future for Ladakh. So looking at one station, learning from one station to build another station. So he couldn't come, so I stepped in with him. And that was a very good crew for me because each of us, we all did our own research, but there was this team goal and it really pulled us together. So, from that time, we managed to think about the baseline for an observatory in the future. We thought about our microbiologists thought about baseline equipment and, testing DNA, bento boxes, for scientists and non-scientists, equipment we might be able to use in Ladakh that required little maintenance and little effort. Our geologists did a comparative study between the desert in Ladakh and the desert at MDRS. So that was the kind of work we were doing there. And we managed to get Mars Society were really great to us because we had a lot of visa troubles, and we managed to get Minaz Jabin from Ladakh to come to MDRS. And she is a geospatial informatics person. She ran the Green Hab. And she thought a lot about, how it was snowing while we were there, quite thick snow. She thought a lot about how, we might plan a greenhouse in Ladakh. So we really got it together on that crew. And I would say thanks Mars Society for that crew because all of us contributed. And in fact, 4 of us came to Ladakh in this last 12 months. So managed to get to MDRS and we did all the work and then applied some of that work in the thinking about the station when we got to Ladakh this year.
John, what about you? You want to add anything? How did your experience at MDRS or Flashline, other analog missions, influence your participation in the establishment of the Hope Station?
I think it was very helpful in understanding the differing strengths of all 3 sites, and the differing things and the common things that they can offer. And in terms of planning the operations at the station, the logistics of getting people to and from it, the selection of the competencies of the people who attend, I think has benefited very much from knowing how things work at MDRS, how things work at FMARS, and integrating that into a completely different location with a completely different higher administrative social structure, I think has been invaluable. I'd hate to have been involved in setting up a station in Ladakh without that experience.
Laid the groundwork. Siddarth, what do you think? Anything you want to add to that? How did your experience influence Hope Station?
So I was part of the refit team back in 2012 at MDRS. So it wasn't a full mission, but yeah, it was essentially 10 days spent building up some parts of MDRS, and that was absolutely, I'd say, experience that shaped a lot of my thoughts as I was a master's student back then. And I had the opportunity to be a remote commander for a crew during 2015 as well. I couldn't travel because of my studies in Canberra. And then Annalea mentioned the crew that we're grateful that she was able to lead them, and I think she did a terrific job. The whole team did a terrific job learning in the US at MDRS and brought that experience in as well. One of the things that I think we are really lucky to have is the team at the US Mars Society that has more than a decade of experience, like so much time that they've spent having teams come through and gone, that I think will be absolutely essential for us to learn from, given how challenging of an environment Ladakh is. It's one of the most extreme environments where you can build and operate a station. It's it's up there with Flashline. John would second that. It's a terrain that's accessible yet extreme and remote, and brings with it, the high altitude brings with it its own share of risks around it. So we are always acknowledging and grateful of the fact that we have a community of people who have that experience that we can bank on to go in and build an even a better program. And essentially the US Mars Society will have like crews going through as well. Like there's a commitment that we have to have more and more participation happening from the US and other places as well. So it's a good I'd say arrangement where we get to learn and bank on the experience and the support, and at the same time we are facilitating a lot of expansion and broadening the visibility for Mars Society around the world.
We've touched on the location, why this specific spot was chosen for the station. Let's talk a little bit about the type of research and the science that's going to happen there. Can you describe the core types of research that Hope is designed to support over the coming years? What kind of experience or studies do you expect to run at the Hope Station?
We've got, because of the location, it's absolutely unavoidable and critical for us to look at astrobiology research, given the place that we're in. And that'll always have a feature in some ways or the other, whether it is to support scientists who are there to study the environment and draw parallels between early Mars or other possible locations in the solar system, but definitely field geologists, microbiologists, geochemists, roboticists coming through with rovers and instruments that would one day fly to Mars and testing them. And we have been doing that already. So it's not only a plan, but a continuation of a series of expeditions that have happened so far. What has changed this year is the Human Spaceflight Center coming forward from ISRO. These are the guys who are essentially working to develop the crewed missions that India is working on to send Indian astronauts into space. And then they're working towards a goal of having an Indian astronaut land on the lunar surface in 2040. And as they're doing this development, starting with their first crewed flight into space somewhere in 2027, there's a lot of objectives that they need to accomplish as well. And those are mainly involved understanding the effects of extreme environments on the human body. So there's a lot of human factors research and space biology research that we will be incorporating into the program that we'll be setting up, that will be run out of the station. And essentially the station is modular. It's been made in a way that it can be repurposed or reconfigured each year to support the kind of science that we need to do. But as it's also located at a place where you could do great, sky star observations like astronomy work. And Annalea, in fact, was leading a lot of the dark sky painting and observing the night sky. Because of the high altitude, the atmosphere is so rarefied, so clear that it's great for doing night sky activities. So there is a plan to have an observatory that would come up there as well, that would support the students as well. So in many ways, and then of course, the greenhouse that Annalea mentioned, that Mehnaz from our team, she's planning to also set up a small greenhouse to understand plants that do grow in adverse environments, and creating controlled temperature, humidity conditions under which you would try to see how we could grow them on the Martian surface. So that's just kind of an array of all the things that we're interested in and support.
Yeah. Well, Annalea, Siddarth Smith mentioned some of the projects that you've been involved with. And I heard human factor, I heard astrobiology, mapping of night sky. Annalea, is there anything else that you want to add to the research or the experiments that are going to be taking place at the Hope Station?
No, I think Siddarth's covered it. I mean, I think scientists are interested in the microbiology, in the hot springs and glacial pools. Okay. And I think that's important ongoing work. And this year I had a chance to work with the Aberdeen team, and they're looking at microbial life in the atmosphere, and that was pretty fantastic as well. So I think those ongoing projects, the Night Sky project is a way of emphasizing that, SOCAR is a dark sky environment. It's a Ramsar international site. It's a wildlife sanctuary, but it's also a very, very dark sky at night. So, and it's also a way of me inviting scientists to use the techniques and strategies of drawing to think about what they can see and think about the visible, not only about light trespass and pollution, but also just to have a low stake environment to be able to experience drawing as a way of ideation. Yeah. So that dark sky work will continue, and so we will. This year we took a telescope there, and the astronomer who was on our team at MDRS last year came from Canada and joined us, and we managed to get a telescope, and it was fantastic. So that, I think that's an important eco-conservation theme for us, that dark sky at SOCAR is something that we would like to protect, because we have the example of a lot of other places all over the world that have been accredited dark skies, and tourists have come, and that's not going to happen at SOCAR. We're in a remote place. No one really has a really clear idea of where it is. We're not on a tourist run. We hope to be able to protect that environment. So, for me, that's a long-form project and an important one. But always driven by the science is what Hope Station is.
Yeah. I'm sensing a theme with you, though. Talking about sketching the night sky makes sense why you'd want to bring your sketch pad as your impractical item on a mission to Mars. Let's see, John, anything you want to add? I know that Siddarth here and Annalea have touched on the various projects, research experiments that are going to happen. Anything they missed? Anything that's critical to
just a couple of things.
Always my position. That's how I come to Mars Society.
Just a couple of things I'd like to mention. With respect to the geology, it's a fantastic geomorphological analog for early Mars. The rocks that we have there are not Mars analog rocks at all, but the processes that have shaped the landscape, the glaciers, the fans, the lake weathering and so on are very much a Mars analog feature. The other thing is, with respect to Annalea's sketchbook, we should remember that among the earliest missions, human missions into space, people have sketched what they saw. So Alexei Leonov, the first man to walk in space, took a sketch pad and colored pencils into space to capture what he saw. So photographs and other data are very useful, but artwork can capture things which are elusive in other media.
Well, let's see here. Speaking of that, talking about how remote this location is, and the high altitude, the dark night sky, being able to see the stars, I imagine. There's a question from Ben Stanley, who's a part of the MDRS team, who asks, how remote is this location? Are the roads traveled nearby the public, or is this so remote it's very immersive?
So one of the reasons we chose this location was it is remote yet accessible, which is to say that we are probably, and I'm going to speak in kilometers just because my head's wired like that this time. Because I used to do miles and I've stopped doing miles after I left the US. So we are at 25 kilometers, about 15, 18 miles or so, something from the highway, which is a proper paved road. Because essentially, you're in a location where people, there's state highways, and we are essentially 25 kilometers off that. But to get to the station, there are dirt roads that you can drive on. The whole surface is pretty leveled. There's some areas where it's a little bumpy, but for most of the time, depending on the time of the year you go in, we haven't had a winter traverse done yet. We were actually just talking about it a few days ago. But the snow generally does tend to melt pretty soon. So we're not expecting like layers and layers of snow to have to tread through and to clear the path as much. But in terms of physical remoteness, yes, you do get that feeling. You're surrounded by this really open, vast landscape, as it was evident in the video. If you stay there for a few days, you already it's kind of starts sinking in. You kind of forget that you're as close from the highway. There's not a lot of people who travel in that area. The native population there, they are nomadic in nature. They're a grazing community, and for most of the summer months, they actually move up with their livestock upper into the mountains for grazing, which are slightly cooler for the animals. And they're not normally in the vicinity. You might occasionally find like a vehicle or something passing by, but not even like close. The other thing you lose there very quickly is sense of distance. There's a spatial disorientation that kind of sets in because it's such a clear, crisp air that mountains that would be, miles and miles away would feel like, oh, it's just like a 10-minute walk away. But as soon as you start walking, it'll probably take you an hour or 2 hours to even reach it. And it always seems like it's that distance. So it's almost like you're on Mars or on Moon, where that atmospheric thing might cause that for people who are walking around. So it has that sense of remoteness built in, and it is remote. Let's not be wrong. But if we had to, like, for all practical purposes, for evacuation and for logistics purposes, you're about a 45-minute drive away from the highway, and then from there a 4-hour drive into the Leh township. So that's kind of the sense of how remote we are.
Okay. Hey, still quite remote. I mean, 4 hours to, a potential town. If there's some sort of emergency, that's still going to take you a little bit of time. Thinking about the future, and you're going to start having crews at Hope Station here soon. So, how will crews be selected? When do you anticipate that scientists, researchers, maybe students will have an opportunity to conduct a mission at the Hope Station?
Yes. So there's a review committee that is currently being formed that has representation from the Mars Society, both the US and Australia groups, and the Indian Space Research Organization, which will essentially sit in on putting together a format that would then be circulated to the research community. So we hope to have the website updated with kind of a and here's a call for scientific teams to kind of submit a group application, a team application for spending some time at the Hope Station. The next year is going to be spent in upgrading the station. So some of the teams that would be going in would be mostly our internal teams, maybe with some opportunities for individuals to join in, like I did many years ago. I was a student who joined a refit crew who went to help build the MDRS station. So that's the kind of phase we're in right now. So most of 2026 will be spent in that. But as we're doing that, we'll be having the call out so that people can start preparing applications. We'll have information on the environment, and we'll start collecting applications. And then sometime in 2027 is when we are hoping to open it up completely for teams to come in and be able to spend time at the station. So I've sent you the link for the website. There's a contact us link there. We're happy to start collecting interests and information from people, and then the more formal call for applications will be putting it out earlier in 2026. So hopefully by February to March of next year.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, we've got that link. We're gonna paste that so those that are listening can click on that link and check out the website. I'm curious. I mean, with the future, you guys are embarking on this adventure with the Hope Station. Last few comments. What are your future plans for Hope? How do you hope to see it grow? Is that more frequent missions? Is that longer duration stays? Is that larger crew sizes, broader research scope? Just what are some of the next big milestones that you're hoping for with the Hope Station? Once you've got it up and running, established, crews are there, what's next on the horizon? John, with that one?
Well, I'll let John answer that.
John,
well, all of the above.
Excellent. Okay.
There are, although it is reasonably remote, and the conditions are quite hostile and become very hostile in winter when it can be minus 20 Celsius or below that. The fact it's relatively accessible means, and of course it's not polar, means that in the future perhaps we could do missions go right through the winter. Obviously, you'd need to select the crews very carefully. A lot of development work in terms of the technology of the station, at low temperature, so on, needs to be done first. But that would be really good. The altitude, where air pressure is effectively half what it is sea level, allows various things to be explored, like having an oxygen feed into the simulated EVA suits to enable people to perform. One of the interesting things is that NASA is looking at an exploration atmosphere for their future missions to the Moon and Mars, which is effectively at half an atmosphere and enriched in oxygen. So we can perhaps at least simulate that in the EVA suits with all of the precautions of working with an oxygen-enriched breathing environment. I mean, we already use oxygen up there. There's always oxygen on tap when people are feeling the altitude. I know I sucked on it a few times last time. Others made, and other people did as well. So there's a lot of potential, but it's got to be step by step because of the remoteness and the hostility of the environment. We don't want to end up in a situation because it goes too fast that people have to be medically evacuated, which is depressing for everyone.
Yeah, not ideal. Nobody wants to end their mission that way. Annalea, what do you think? Any other long-term goals, future milestones, things you guys want to accomplish with the Hope Station? Siddarth, take it away.
So we want Hope to be a beacon. These are challenging times around the world, and there's a lot that can be done there outside of Mars. It's a place where communities can collaborate, work together. There's a lot to be done about studying our own planet's climate, and Ladakh happens to be a place where you can visibly see the effects of the changing climate. So it actually brings together energies that are important for our planet, for us as humanity, and I think that's important. And we would try to tap a little bit into that by bringing in artists, creative people, storytellers, people essentially who can talk about the right things and find ways in which we can all kind of work together. That's kind of the larger goal of Hope, I think, in my head. Like, it's definitely a lab and a classroom and all of the above, but it also should be a place which people aspire to go to kind of get a chance to do all the right things that this planet really requires at this point.
I think that's a perfect way to finish the conversation, just recapping what you said, and I think it's beautiful. It's obviously a beacon for hope, which obviously aligns with the name, which is perfect. But inspiring people, an opportunity for those that want to come and experience, they want to learn, they want to extend the research that's going to help put humanity in future missions to the moon, to Mars, and I think that's beautiful, and I'm excited to see the progress that comes with hope. So to wrap up today, thank you so much, Annalea, John, Siddarth. Thank you for being here and sharing with me about the Hope Station. Look forward to seeing where things go in the future.
Thanks a lot, Ashton. You take care there.
I want to give a special thanks to our executive director, James Burke. Shout out to our PR director, Michael Stoltz. Leah, our producer, working behind the scenes as always. Thank you. And thank you to everybody that tuned in today and supporting Red Planet Live. Going to wrap up today the way we always do. As you know, the best is yet to come. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.